Yes, welcome to GarageBand Weekly for yet another week. Our show here on Studio Live today where we talk all GarageBand all the time. My name is Pete, and as I mentioned, this is Studio Live today where my goal is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And one of the platforms I love using, and I know that many of you love using, is GarageBand. Whether you're on a Mac or an iPad or an iPhone or an iPod Touch 7th generation, hey, they still make them and they still work really well. Using GarageBand is a great way to record, to mix, to master, and to release your music. We don't need things to be difficult and complicated and complex these days. Simple can be good, and that's what we're going to talk about. What have we got coming up on the show today? In our news and notes, we'll be reviewing anything from WWDC, anything we're excited about. I don't know. I'll let you know my thoughts. We've got a rant of the week about some of the bugs in GarageBand. I know, bugs. And some of them, Apple are not really saying are bugs. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Tip of the week's going to be all about limiting and mastering. And we've got a very cool plugin and app of the week that we'll be talking about. Something that I'm excited about, something I know many of you folks have asked to be able to do in GarageBand, which you can't do. This little app and plugin may be the easiest way that I've seen so far to do that. I know, tease, you'll have to watch to the end to find out what that's all about. Let's jump in though with some news and notes. So as you'd be aware, last week, the WWDC keynote happened. I did a special edition preview show here on GarageBand Weekly, and then I did a live show the following day to let you know all of the big news out of WWDC. And if you haven't caught up on all this, yeah, there's not much coming. There's not really a whole lot that creators, that musicians, that audio folks should be excited about. I mean, a new iOS update is always good until it's not. Until it crashes a bunch of your apps and it doesn't work. But yeah, the big news is that iOS 14 is coming. It doesn't have a whole lot of changes. It's a bit of a little tweak update. We've got some widgets, some additional widget stuff. We've got some additional customization of your home screen. You can open up apps in different apps, open up files in different apps. Still don't have confirmation if that's music, like whether I can set Google Play or Spotify as my default music player. Haven't quite got to the bottom of that yet. But the big news is that Macs are going away from Intel and they're going to the new silicon chip. They're going to an ARM-based processor. So Apple are going to be making their own chips as opposed to using Intel's, and that's going to do something interesting. The biggest change I'm seeing out of all of this is that Macs are going to be running a processor that's going to basically be the same as the processor in the high-end iPhones and iPads. So all of the A12s and A13s and A14s of the future are going to kind of be cross-platform. Cross-platform, which makes sense if you think about it, because if Apple are manufacturing their own chips, why would they have two completely separate ones? They're basically doing the same functions, and that same functions comment, I think, is the real takeaway from this, that in the future, Mac OS, Big Sur, the new Mac OS version that's going to be released, is looking an awful lot like iOS and iOS 14. And iOS 14 is looking an awful lot like the new Mac OS. So what that means is that we, in the future, will see that cross-compatibility. Apple have already said they want apps that are going to be universal across Mac, iOS, and iPadOS, and they already demonstrated this. So with the developer that they showed them actually using iOS, iPad, and iPhone games and apps on the Mac using the Mac hardware. So here we were thinking, are we going to get Logic Pro on iOS? Whereas really what it looks like is that we might get iOS stuff on our Mac, which could also be good, because if cross-compatibility means cross-compatibility. So when they create, here's what I think. I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time coding a complete standalone iOS version of Logic. What I think is going to happen is that they're going to code a version of Logic that is going to run on their new silicon, their new Mac chips in Big Sur, and that same version will then run in iOS and iPad OS, because it's going to be universal. And that'll be cool. And I'm looking forward to folks collaborating on GarageBand iOS on their Mac. Because if you could go one way, you can go the other way. And that would be kind of cool. What does this mean for Mac version of GarageBand? The OG, the original GarageBand on Mac, if this is happening, because we've got GarageBand iOS, which is a little bit more like Logic than it is GarageBand. It's got things like Alchemy Synth. And then we've got Logic. Where does it leave a GarageBand Mac user? I don't know. I'd like to hear your views on this. So was there anything else in iOS 14? Nothing audio related. The only thing I could pick out of all of the dregs was a new voice recorder. So I haven't looked into enough to see what the new voice recorder is going to actually do. But we do have a new voice recorder. And one thing that wasn't talked about that I'm interested in is when do we think inter-app audio is actually going to go away? Because we were told it was being deprecated, which sounds like another word, sounds a bit dirty, being deprecated in iOS 13. But yeah, we haven't really seen any sign that it's going away. Except what I'm starting to hear is from a lot of viewers who are using inter-app audios, they're starting to hear from their developers that they are making the move. So I think finally, I don't know if the developers have got a bit of a nudge, and maybe iOS 14 will be the time where we see no more inter-app audio. I'm not speculating on that because I've got zero inside knowledge, but it would make sense. If they're moving to this new universal architecture, they want to make sure that everything's slick and uniform and able to do things. And I don't think inter-app audio is, well, it's not. It's not a technology that they will want to use in the future. It is going to all be about the audio unit, using audio unit plugins and AUV3 to use your instruments and your apps within GarageBand. So yeah, let me know what you think about those though. Are you excited? Are you fascinated by the changes, by what's going to happen? Yeah, are you going to buy a new Mac? Are you going to buy a new Mac with the new Apple Silicon? They're only going to be like about $5,000 or $6,000 is the word. But yeah, that is what's happening. That is the news from WWDC. Not a whole lot happening. Oh, and when is this all happening? They couldn't have been more vague with that. I think they said something like fall, which I think means autumn, which I think means my spring. So we're probably talking several months before we actually get that. We do have the beta release of iOS 14, so we've got the devs, and then there'll be a public beta. So if you do want to get involved with that, you can. I tend to not. I wait for other people to iron out the bugs before I jump in and do my thing. Righty dokie. Hello to other folks who have jumped in. We've got Creative Source, Mike over there, having his day's first cuppa. Good to have you here. Derek Smith is on board. Mousy is here as well. Thank you for being here. Kyle TV is here live. Hulk Hogan won the WWDC. I know, how much does a wrestling tournament does it sound like? WWCC. SM Borthwick, I think I know what the app is. I won't spoil the surprise. Yeah, no spoilers. Yeah, we'll be going in there. James Orell's got some comments here. Not really sure what's going to happen with GarageBand. Having two different versions that will work on the Mac doesn't really make sense, but I can't see them getting rid of either. I'm interested. As am I. I really don't know where they're going to go. Tom Rochelle says, I almost wish that they would deprecate IAA to force Korg to make their apps AUV3. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, we'll see how we go. Hello, Mark Guest Guitar says hello. On my GarageBand question yesterday regarding opening a new track, it seems creating a template doesn't work as I'm using Amplitude. It needs to be open fresh each time. Okay. So yeah, my template idea was Mark was saying that when he opened a new track, he wished it could go straight into external and have Amplitude. I said set up a template that has all of your plugins there. Sounds like if you're using a lot of external plugins and Amplitude in particular, maybe that doesn't work. I'll have to dive in and have a go, I think. And Sion says, I think they'll eventually make it possible to work on a project on both platforms. Yeah, I do too, but I'm just, to James's point, I'm not sure which way they're going to go in terms of the original Mac version. Because again, if they're pushing development dollars into the iOS version, which is then also going to be able to be used on a Mac, what does that do for the Mac version when they want people to use Logic? And especially if they have Logic that you can then use as an app on your iPad, they don't really want GarageBand, other GarageBand, and Logic. I could see them making a rash decision there and going, sorry, GarageBand Mac users, you better get used to the iOS world. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Righty dokie. Let's continue on. Speaking of bugs in GarageBand, there are still 3 bugs, and I'm getting emails about these every single week. So I'm actually going to make a video specifically about these, but I thought I'd mention them here because I know a lot of my GarageBand using friends watch this show every week, and it's kind of your weekly dose of GarageBand updates. So there are 3 current bugs that are happening in GarageBand. One is the save to files bug. So when you go and you're trying to export as a WAV file or as an M4A file, and you go save to files, it creates some weird ghost file that doesn't have an extension, cannot be played in anything on your iPhone or iPad. It's still the file, but it's got problems. It's corrupted. It's weird. So what do you have to do? You have to hit open in, and then hit your save to files. So before, when you're saving, when you're exporting in GarageBand, hit open in, then hit save to files. That will allow you to save out a WAV or an M4A file. This isn't, again, this isn't an actual bug that Apple have said is a bug. They've have said nothing about this, and this is probably what frustrates me. I think people don't care. If you've got bugs, or if you've got errors, or if you've got problems, I don't think people care, but at least train your technical support team that this thing is happening. At least admit that it's happening. Like it's fine. Stuff happens. Like we're not concerned by the fact that there's going to be bugs. We think this, well, personally, I think this is amazing software. I think you're doing a very good job. It's not, no one is going to look down on you if there's a few bugs in your software. What we are going to get frustrated though is if you don't tell us that, and it relies on people like me to tell folks that this is what's actually happening. So just put some reports out there. Say, yes, we're aware of these 3 bugs. We will try to fix them, or we're never going to fix them. Just be honest. I don't actually care. If you say we're never fixing these, just suck it up and deal, I'll say, cool, at least we know. It's the not knowing that's the problem, right? Okay, I did tell you this was a rant as well as a bug report. The other bug is the background mode. So if you're using certain, and this is a weird thing, if you're using certain iPads, I haven't heard that it's happening much on iPhones, but it's definitely an iPad thing. You'd be aware that if you're in GarageBand, you're doing your thing. Let's just see, GarageBand hasn't loaded up yet. You're in GarageBand, you're doing your thing, you're recording your tracks, and then say you've got some lyrics on another app, and you switch apps. I'm still getting used to switching apps on here. So you switch apps and you go into YouTube to look at your lyrics, because that's where you go do your other app to look at your lyrics, and you've got GarageBand recording in the background. After about 10 seconds, it'll just stop. So your GarageBand, which is supposed to work in background mode and continue recording, will just come to a grinding halt, and you won't be able to keep recording. Now, I know that's a pain in the butt because a lot of people like to do what I do, which is that they'll switch over to a Notes app where they've got their lyrics when they're recording vocals. And at the moment, that bug is causing people to not be able to do that, which is a pain in the butt. So yeah, if you do have that problem, unfortunately, that one has no fix, no workaround, and it's not actually been acknowledged by Apple. So yeah, good luck. Good luck us getting a fix on that. Hopefully, iOS 14 will fix some of these things. If any of you are installing the beta, the developer versions, and you want to test this stuff out and let us know, please do so. I don't have the energy, to be honest. I've never been a I've never been an early sort of bleeding edge adopter. I've always hung around and done things early, but not first, because I get too frustrated by these sort of things, as you can tell by my rant. Bug number 3 is an automation bug. So automation, let's bring the iPad back into view here. So automation is when we tap right here on our icon and we go to the automation menu, boom, and we want to automate volume. Sometimes on particularly the iPad Pro, a lot of folks have been saying this, when you turn your automation on and you start adding in your automation points, as soon as you start moving those points, your GarageBand crashes. Now, it's not going to do it for me because, of course, it won't. It's like when you take your car to the garage, it won't crash. Now, the thing that I've been told about this, first of all, make sure you always save. So before you do any automation, save your project, go out, save it, go back in, and that way you won't lose things if things go wrong. And then when you're doing your automation, where are we? Automation. When you're doing your automation, turn that on, add your point, and then make sure you turn that off again before you move it. Apparently, having that still on, you can still move it, but A, it's a bit fiddly because you tend to add additional points, and B, this seems to be what's causing a lot of these errors. So turn that off before you do your automation moves. If you want to learn about automation, of course, you can go to YouTube, search Pete Johns Automation. I have about 10 different videos showing you the wonderful world of automation and how things can be done. Oh, there you go. Got that off my chest, and now hopefully I can point people to this episode. What is it? Episode 28 of GarageBand Users Weekly, GarageBand Weekly. If people have the same issues as I've been having, then hopefully that will work it out. So Scott here says automation bug I was getting every time on a project would happen when I forget to click edit automation icon and went straight in trying to adjust. It would close out immediately. So there you go. Yes, if you're having that same problem, just toggle that edit automation button. But again, make sure you save before you do any major things. Go ahead and save your project, because GarageBand, one of the pet peeves is that it has no autosave function whatsoever. You can do an hour worth of intricate little mixes and tweaks, forget to save, your GarageBand crashes, and you lose everything. So save. Saving is your friend. Always save. Uh, Scott says that there's another strange issue been recently is exporting to audio share results in a file with no audio. Happens more on my iPhone than iPad. That's very strange. Haven't come across that one. Maybe I need a bug page. That's actually not a bad idea. That's going in the notes here. Sorry, every time I have an idea, a headache with pictures, it goes into my notes here. So I'm just going to add a page here. GarageBand bug report. And the other thing is, I know that we should all be reporting these to Apple. You should all go to the Apple website. So maybe when I make my bug page, I'll actually put the link there so that folks can find that. Because I find it really hard to even find where you're supposed to report bugs to Apple, let alone actually doing it. So, yes, but yes, do report your bugs, and maybe we'll get that up and running. We'll get a bit of a bug page. Get a confirmed bugs, and then I can do a video about each one, and then we'll do folks can submit. Potential bugs that they're having. That could be pretty cool. Alrighty, let's continue on. Now I've lost my notes because I've written that idea down here. Let's go back. Where are we? What show are we doing? GarageBand Weekly. Righty dokie. Tip of the week. Now, I've had a few questions in the last week about getting a mix, like mixing in GarageBand, exporting it, and then playing it back, and then it not being competitive with other songs. So, what we're talking about here is generally related to mastering. So, you'd be aware that when you're using GarageBand, you mix your project, you get all your volume levels, you do all your faders, you get your compression setting, your automation, everything else, and then you export that sucker and you open in and then you save to files. Otherwise, you get a weird error. So once you've done that, you've got your final mix. And GarageBand, in its infinite wisdom, does something called auto normalization, which is actually good, especially if you're starting out, because what it will do is if your overall mix is too quiet, it will raise the peak volume to 0 dB. Now, I say raise the peak volume because it doesn't actually limit it. Limiting is different. Limiting is actually pulling your whole mix up, and limiting is basically pushing down the top. So if you think of normalization as only increasing up to the point where the loudest part is at 0 dB, but what you actually want to do generally is bring your mix up a little bit louder so that your peaks are more uniform. Because if you imagine if you've got like a really loud drum beat and then you bring everything up so that the drum beat's at 0, well, everything else is still going to be sitting down, minus 12, minus 18. It's not going to sound competitive with other songs. So what you need to do is add a limiter. And the easiest way to do that, you can use mastering software, you can use a bunch of other things. What I do is especially if I want a quick master, is I'll export it as a WAV file. I'll import just that WAV file into a blank project, or just add it down to a bottom here, to the bottom of this project, solo it, and then just add the peak limiter, which is part of the GarageBand, or part of the iOS plugins that you have on your iPad or iPhone. Then all you need to do is just dial that up, maybe 3, 4, 5 dB, and then you're going to have a limited mix. And I've shown that in a bunch of videos before. If you search Pete John's GarageBand Mastering, it's going to show you there because, like I said, a lot of folks have been contacting me in the last couple of weeks saying, I'm doing everything you say, but when I export my song, I listen to my song, and then I listen to another song, and it's just not sounding in the pocket. It's not competitive. It's not at the right. It doesn't feel like it's punching through enough. If you're ever hearing anything like that, usually related to mastering, usually can be at least helped by doing some limiting on your final mix. So hopefully that helps a few of you out there if you're having that particular problem. All right, let's talk about the app of the week. I'm pretty excited for this one. So, for a while now, I've been looking for the perfect app for using samples and loops in GarageBand, and I haven't been able to find it. I've had one simple wish. In fact, my viewers have had this wish. They want to be able to take any loop, any sample, and then change it to whatever pitch and whatever speed they want for their project. And for some reason, that one simple thing has been super difficult to do. Now, a while ago, Jade Star on the channel here put me onto Elliott Garage and EG Pulse, which is a very cool app. It's like a drum triggering app. It's a sampling app. It does a whole bunch of stuff. And it worked and it did this, but it was a reasonably expensive app, and it was very complex because it did so much stuff. And I said, at the time, I remember thinking that why can't there be a cut down version of this? Why can't there be a simple, light version of this to do exactly what we want to do? And that's what this is. Segments by EG. So Elliott Garage has come to the party with this app, which is Segments. It is everything. It is a sampler. It's an audio unit plugin. It plugs into GarageBand. It's a standalone plugin. It can play your samples. There. I haven't quite worked out all the... See, now I'm not going to know how to stop it. This is a really bad advertisement for this. But we'll just keep going with this. But what we can do is we can actually change the timing. It'll tell us the BPM there, and it'll tell us the note that we're working with. So we can actually change this both based on pitch. So let's turn the pitch down and do it again. And then we can grab the speed. But there is apparently, and I've got to get into the weeds and work this out, but there is a way to actually change this so you can set you can actually sync it to whatever you're using, but you can actually set the pitch and the speed separately. So this is kind of going to be the killer app in terms of what I know that a lot of folks need, where they're downloading loops and samples and say it's in C and they want it to be upper tone in D, but they don't want the speed to change. Then we can actually do that pitch change in here. And likewise, if you want to just change the speed, keep the pitch the same, you can change the speed. You can set all of that in here. There's so much that you can do with this. Go to the App Store. They've got a bunch of videos on YouTube as well. So there's a bunch of interactive videos there, which I'm going to be going through this week, and I'm going to be testing this out. So I don't recommend this yet. It looks like it's going to do everything that I want in an app like this. So I'm going to experiment with it and then come back and do some videos, because like I say, if it can do what it says it does, it's going to be pretty amazing for producers when you're trying to bring one sample in and make it sync up with another project, do the pitch changing, do the tempo changing and the beat matching and all of that gear. And I didn't even show all the different things it can do, like in terms of spacing out all these samples. Obviously, you've got all these pads you can actually do. And again, I haven't actually worked out how to do it yet. Excuse me. I should have, no, I'm not going to even try, but you can actually get these so that there's different pads. If you watch the video, it's going to give you a much better view on that, and I will be reviewing it in the next week once I've had a chance to have a good play. And a big shout out to the folks at Elliott Garage, because I saw this came out, or Elliott Garage, I saw this come out, and I emailed and said, hey, this looks like it could be exactly what my viewers are looking for, and they sent me through a license straight away so that I could actually check it out immediately. So thank you to the folks there. They are great people, and I will be playing with that in the coming weeks and days. Cost is $10 US, $15 here in Australia. So $9.99 US, which seems like a pretty good price point for an app that does all the things that this looks like it does, and $14.99 here in Australia. I wasn't planning to feature it this week, but when I got my hands on it yesterday and started playing with it, I thought, yeah, we need to talk about this. Alrighty. Okay, I think, where are we? I'm getting excited about things. Yes, we'll finish off here because we've got 4 minutes to go. Let's talk the resource of the week, which we do each week. I wanted to give a shout out. Again, this is going to be self-serving for a couple of things. The resource of the week is the Create, Record, Release Facebook group, because the group there has just passed 350 members. I know many of you are already members, but if you're not, then jump over there. There is, of course, the GarageBand users Facebook group as well. As you can see, I'm representing the GarageBand users group with my GBU t-shirt here. There's also the Create, Record, Release group. The difference being Create, Record, Release is more about the actual sharing of music, of ideas about composition and creation and recording and mixing and mastering and releasing music, and getting feedback from other people. There's a bit of that goes on in GarageBand, but Create, Record, Release is platform independent. So regardless of whether you're recording on Logic or Reaper or GarageBand or on the 4-track from the 80s that you have in your cupboard, I don't know, whatever you're recording on, you can come and share music. And again, a lot of talented folks sharing some pretty amazing music there. And the beautiful part of it is that, you get to participate both ways. So you can come to Create, Record, Release, you can provide your music and share it, get a bunch of good feedback about what's working, maybe what you can improve on your music, but you also get to listen to other people's music and provide feedback to them. Not only is that going to help them out, it actually really helps you out. So it helps you if you are trying to create music, because you're learning what other people are doing, and you might hear a cool idea and be able to say to that person, how did you get that reverb sound on that second chorus? That sounded amazing. And they'll say, hey, I just stacked up 2 different reverbs. I used this one as a quarter note delay, this one with an eighth note delay, and Bob's your uncle, got a great sound. So things like that really help. So if you want to be involved in a community where we share information, we share knowledge, we share what we're doing, and make your music better, then jump over to create, record, release. And again, the GarageBand users group is amazing as well. You can pick up a T-shirt if you want to. If you go to, I've put a link down in the comment actually, in the pinned comment on this video is a link to my merchandise. So I got a brand new Studio Live Today T-shirt that I just released last week, and you can still pick up these GarageBand users T-shirts as well, all under $20. I keep the prices down. I could every time I release a T-shirt, it says you should charge $30 for this. You would make this much profit, and I'm like, nah, bring the slider down. Like I make like $3. So yeah, if you want to pick up a quality T-shirt but for cheap, yeah, head over to the merchandise places. Righty dokie. Thank you everyone for being here. Oh, and thank you. James Orell says, yeah, the group is growing really quickly. Some very talented people on there. Definitely give that a join. And James is one of our excellent moderators. So he saves me a lot of time and effort by moderating the group and doing a fabulous job over there along with the other mods. So thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you everyone for being here. Have a great week of creating. I'm going to let you go and get back to your creating. If you got some value out of this one, hitting the like button lets me know that you want me to get up early every Monday morning and do this show. You can also go to studiolivetoday.com for more information on. If you're here live, and even if you're not, head over to Jade Starr's channel. She's looking at guitars on her How To App series all this week. So if you're sitting here right now, the next thing you need to do is go to Jade. Just search Jade Starr Dread Circus in your YouTube, or click or tap on her face in there in the chat right now. Search for How To App GarageBand. There's a bunch of different ways you can find that, but do go over there. 30 minutes time, How To App. I'll be there. I hope to see you there as well. Take care, folks. Have a great week, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.